Hello and welcome to Budget in Focus. In this edition of the program, I have here with me Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister, the Honorable Kwame McCoy. And as we know, Minister McCoy has the responsibility for information, the dissemination of information, and generally the organs of the government that are responsible for information. Minister McCoy, welcome to Budget in Focus.
Thank you very much, Mark, and to our viewers and listeners. I also thank you for tuning in.
All right. Your responsibility, and of course, you are well, first I need to say again to you, congratulations for being appointed. I know you have been in public life for quite a long time. We were talking about off camera. But in the realm of information, your responsibility stretches far and wide, and it takes into consideration not only the information that is disseminated in the city via all media, but as well as the far-flung areas of the country, deep south, deep north, and you have been very busy. So first off, let's say that coming out of the budget, quite a huge tranche of what is going out to many of the sectors and agencies fall under your ambit. But let's talk about information, where you have been spending most of your time. In fact, most of your time is taken up there. Let's talk about the dissemination of information and how this budget will boost and catapult the work that you do.
All right, thank you, Mark. So, Budget 2021 builds off of our emergency budget, which was presented last year, the government coming into office in August, and so we had to have an emergency budget. As you know, the situation that faced the country at that time, the post-elections situation, and therefore there were several setbacks in relation to the movement of the country, the direction in which it was going, until the finalization of those elections results, which allowed the government to come into power or into office on August 2nd, 2020 rather. And so from then we have moved into the direction of, first of all, seeking to rebuild from where we were as a country. Rebuild and for sure towards a recovery pathway, primarily because of all that we saw and all that we know over those 5 years of the APNU AFC government, that we have had to, as a government coming into power, really go to the drawing board in terms of what was left to us, what we inherited, and where do we need to take the country, the direction in which we need to go. All that, of course, considering our promises to the people of this country, our manifesto. As you know, we were in the campaign for a long time, and we have been communicating with people right across this country, and we have we've listened to them in the first place and have been able to develop programs, initiatives, ideas to take to government once we were elected. And from the inception of our program in government, we sought to keep our promises to the people that we made on the elections campaign, which is absolutely important and is something that we should never take for granted, because it is on the basis of that program manifesto that you put to people that they will then give you their vote of confidence. And we're happy that the people of this country saw us as the best alternative to what they experienced as an APNU AFC government, a government of malaise, a government that neglected the people, that was totally uncaring, and a government that really had no genuine concern for the interests of people in our country. And therefore, people thought that it was necessary to move away from that kind of situation they endured for 5 years, where they were burdened with taxes and burdened by all sorts of ill management, mismanagement of our economy. Every sector under the APNU AFC government had collapsed. And not uh, just collapsed, it collapsed because of the type of policies they had, because of the type of management style that they had. And so nothing that they attempted to do gained the type of traction and the movement forward in terms of taking us as a country forward. And so we have had to come into government and to, from the inception, try to correct those deficiencies, serious deficiencies, take that weight off of the backs of and shoulders of our Guyanese brothers and sisters. And so the first budget sought to put very serious measures in place to breathe life again into the economy, into the country, and all across Guyana that we travel. And you hear people can breathe and they talk with a sense of relief that now they can see the light of the now in this country called Guyana. There is some hope. You know, it's like really coming out of a stranglehold. And so Budget 2021 builds on that. It builds on the fact that we have to continue to work with people and to be able to provide for them and their families, their communities, and to make our country successful in terms of our economic management. And so the budget, first of all, is about people. It's about you. It's about the working class. It's about the vulnerable. It's about mothers. It's about children. It's about the pensioners. It's about all of us as Guyanese being able to take the various measures, have them implemented, and have them effect positive changes and development on our life. And so we have a long way to go as a country, nevertheless. But the budget program, which is an annual cycle and an annual program that provides for the development and the advancement of people and their lives, is here with us in 2021. Well crafted, carefully crafted, in keeping with the democratic norms and traditions of consultation with the people and those that matter, the private sector, other stakeholders of our country, civil society, to ensure even the political parties were consulted in the preparation of this budget with the president and other actors of the government, making sure that we have it and we get it right. And that is very important, Mark, absolutely important. It is not the type of leadership with arrogance, the type of leadership that excludes, the type of leadership that gives the impression that we know it all. It is about how we involve the people, the buying from the people. What is it that you most desire? And though we've had those outreaches and those consultation meetings, and people have given us what they're thinking for themselves, their family, and their community, what they would like, I wouldn't sit here to pretend that this budget will give them every single thing that they wanted. Every single thing. But it is definitely a budget that will take us a step further. And in fact, more than a step, steps further towards the advancement of our lives and our community. So I am excited for the debate in this budget. I'm excited to see us all supporting this budget, taking it forward, having it implemented for 2021, and really having the impact that it is intended to create. That is the impact on the lives of people for their positive development.
Minister, I think you just answered a bunch of questions just with that one tranche there. So I will obviously have to delete some of the questions I want to ask because you dealt with them.
I'm sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. I'm happy that you're on the ball and you're hitting it right where we need. All right. So your job is critical. And this, what we're doing here, and the fact that we've had ministers coming, it has a lot to do with what you've been doing as it relates to getting the information out. Now, information has always been critical to bringing people on board. And you just made sure just now, you just alluded to it, that all stakeholders from all strata, all sectors, every hook and cranny, every little crease there is, have to be on board and are and still being consulted on where the government needs to go. Its trajectory, it wants to take the population. We know that we made mention at the beginning of the program about the hinterland areas, the regional radio stations, the community radio stations. You are very, 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 I know, excited about what happens there, and the fact that some of the stuff, especially the critical information that's being shared in the city, goes out to these points in the country. Let's talk about that.
It is absolutely important, Mark. I don't think any one of us would sit here or anywhere we are in this country and agree that information to the people is not important, and absolutely so, because it is actually one of the very important functions of the government to be able to transmit to these very people who you've been to before the elections, who you asked for their vote, who you had their vote of confidence, who put you into power. It is absolutely important to continue the communication with those persons through the provision of information, through the engagement stakeholders meeting, through the provision of services, and to be able to tell the stories, where we are as a country, where we want to go, where we're heading, what are the new developments, what are the challenges, how we are affected by these developments and challenges, about the pandemic and how its impact on our movement forward, and how speedily we would have been further if it wasn't for the pandemic. A lot of things. It is absolutely important.
Critical.
And we take that role very seriously as a government, absolutely serious, because it is the means through which you keep people engaged. It is the means through which people hold us accountable and also transparent. So when you see us sharing all these information, you see the ministers on television, you see other government officials in the news, newspaper, elsewhere, sharing information. I don't think it is because of a popularity contest or because people like to see themselves on TV and so forth. It is about us taking this simple word called accountability very seriously, because it is the means of making us accountable. People seeing us, they can challenge us via the television, the radio programs, in the newspaper. You see people being able to grasp with the issues, understand them, and being able to move forward in terms of the criticisms and whatever else they may place at the feet of the government. It is nevertheless to keep us accountable, and we being accountable to the people. So it is absolutely. So what we have is definitely an information sector that needs advancement. And continually we are committed to putting the resources in place, putting the resources to this sector to be able to make it much more vibrant, much more aggressive in terms of being able to be on top and on the ball in terms of the information we provide, and to the areas that we provide this information. And you know, the interland has suffered in many years, not only for the need for information, but in many respects. It was this, well, not this current PPPC government, but the former PPPC government that created the opportunity to bring our brothers and sisters from the interland into the mainstream of our society. So we developed scholarships, which they never had before, and they were entitled to, and they were able to access under the government, the former PPPC government. We had many of them joining the police force, many of them getting the opportunity to be trained as doctors, nurses. Then they go back to their communities and serve. Some of them, a few, remain in Georgetown. But there has been a conscious effort by PPPC governments to make sure that our interland brothers and sisters can match up with what happens on our coast and what happens in the rest of the world. And so that's a fascinating, dynamic, interesting stories that sometimes we forget, and they are not told enough. But they are very important stories to remind us of how consistent we are as a party and government, of how committed we are to people and their development. And my history would tell me, growing up as a little boy, coming into the political fraternity, my history will tell me that whenever the People's Progressive Party Civic is in government, people's lives change for the better. You have your best moment in this country whenever the People's Progressive Party Civic government, because the government of the People's Progressive Party Civic is always associated with progress, success, development, achievements, an impressive record. And so we have been working with our interland radio stations, of course, making sure, first of all, that they remain on air, making sure that they are being serviced in terms of all the resources that are needed, making sure that the people who have to keep us informed in those areas are in place, making sure that we look towards the expansion of these satellite stations and the central operation of NCN itself, making sure that it functions and it becomes more and more effective as a broadcasting entity. And it is very important as a national station that we take the lead in being able to set the bar out there and to really be the right example as a leader in the broadcasting entity. And so under the area, so in my function and my secretariat, we are working towards, for example, Mark, establishing a broadcasting academy. I think this is absolutely important for us in terms of helping to maintain and sustain the standards of broadcasting in Guyana. And so we're working to make sure that an academy to support that, not that the government takes it on, but to support it as an NGO operation and to make sure that all the necessary tools are there to be able to bring broadcasting into its most lively stage and most dynamic kind of outputs we could have in the information communication area. ICT and how it helps us to really push forward and to catapult and to quicken the pace in terms of the reach, because you know now ICT is no longer a luxury. It is an absolute necessity. The government has been working to build the infrastructure, and it's a pity that we couldn't have the type of advancement that we envisage at the government, the former PPPC government, in the ICT sector, because we left an ICT program in government in 2015. And the vision that we had for that program, if it had been followed through in the way and manner that we envisaged and it was designed to, we would have been further with our ICT development. But it is almost retracing the steps and having to go back to restart in some ways, be able to provide the ICT services to the people of this country. And so happy for us. A few weeks after coming into government, we liberalized the telecommunication sector. We brought liberalization in the telecommunication sector. Again, one of those promises made in our manifesto, and one of those promises kept and fulfilled. And so if you track what we have been doing, you will see that they're all linked to the promises we made. They all have some relationship to people's development. They all have some relationship to what people want. They all have some relationship to some form of consultation, some form of stakeholder input, etc. And this is what you need to have as a country. And so the information sector will be no short of the type of leadership that I'm speaking about and have been speaking about, because we want our people to be involved. It is by the people's involvement, tracking their views, tracking their opinions, tracking their criticisms, that we will be able to continue to be a good government. A good government that will always take the constructive criticisms and use them to our advantage and to the people's advantage. And not that there may not be criticisms that we will take on, especially if they come in the most facetious manner and capricious way, or trying to deliberately distort our history and our program. We'll take those on and we will deal with them for what they are. But overall, it is a Guyanese society that it becomes more literate, more educated, more informed, more involved through the information and communication sector in the government.
All right, Minister, we've got just about 5 minutes, and I want us to touch on this. So we've got the debates beginning on Monday, and this is absolutely important. You've got the stakeholders in government, you've got the opposition. Of course, you participated already with all the stakeholders. And this conversation needs to happen for the people to benefit from. It begins on Monday. Your expectations coming out of it?
Well, I expect that on our side, we have some very, very good debaters. And not for the sake of debating, but debaters who understand their subject, debaters who are all primed up and raring for a good, robust type of debate in the parliament. I am hoping that we have the opposition there who can make its contribution to the debates. But Mark, I have a serious fear about the debates coming up. And that fear is really about the performance of the opposition. All across this country you go, you find people lamenting their disappointment about an opposition that seemed to be so much off the target, so much away from the reality, so much into themselves and their own world that they miss the very salient and important aspects of their role. And so I hope, for the sake of their own constituents, for the hope of those people who they represent, that they will really step up to the game. You saw the president there at Parliament giving his inaugural address and challenging us to work together as a country and as a people, to work in the interest of all our people, to again, through his speech, repeat his commitment to making Guyana a society that becomes dynamic, that becomes successful, an economy that will provide for all the people of this country. And it is something that we don't talk by mere putting together of words. It is something that we absolutely mean, we are absolutely serious about. We want it to happen. And we want it to happen as fast as it could, and for the interest of our country and our people. If we can achieve that as a people, it makes us better. It makes us successful. Why would we want to deprive people of this country the benefits of services and the goods that they're entitled to? So when we talk about Linden, we've had our first full cabinet outreach in Linden. The president has been to several other regions before Linden and has not taken a full cabinet with him.
Okay.
And confined it to a hall with people coming to meet the president and team. This is the first full cabinet outreach. And it is really to demonstrate how serious we are about making that sure that our country move forward. And I visited Linden since the president's cabinet outreach on no less than 4 occasions. And all of those occasions, I gleaned from all of the faces and the presentations there, the sentiment of wanting to work with this government, to take their community and to make this country move in a direction that we will all be proud of. They are people right across this country, not only from Linden, that want to work hard and want to work with this government and want to see us all successful. And you know why that is even more a yearning by the people of this country? They have seen the true colors of the APNU AFC government in the last 5 years, and particularly post-elections. And they are not willing to have their lives further set back by the shenanigans of the APNU AFC government. So I hope, Cabal, so I hope that the opposition comes very prepared. You know, they come with some very vacuous statements. Oh, they come about corruption. They come about all sorts of things. But there has been no government in this country that has had the brand of corruption more than the APNU AFC government. The brand of corruption as if it was made for them. You have seen what has taken place over the last 5 years. And in addition to that, I want to also say they will come with, oh, there's no monies in the budget announced for public servants increase in wages and salary. But then at the same time, the very people there know that you couldn't announce wages and salary increases in the budget. It is subjected to a bargaining with the unions, and then subsequently making the announcement based on what the government can be able to afford. And in any way, the money is in the budget.
It's there.
10 point how much billion dollars in the budget to cater for the increases. But look at all that we have been able to do as a government. We have removed several taxes from people, VAT on water and electricity. We have returned the status of the elderly being able to access the concession of no water and electricity on their water and electricity bills. We've given back we've given back monies to the school children that they took away, the $1.6 billion, and we've increased it. And so the school children will be getting a voucher for $15,000 per child in the public school. We have been able to reduce basic food items to be able to put back monies in people's pocket so that they can afford better for their families. We've been able to reduce, you know, construction is a big thing for us in the PPP civic government. It's one of our jewel crown in terms of the housing development and the housing program. Under the People's Progressive Party civic government last year alone, for the 6 months we've been in government, for the few months we've been in government in 2020, we have been able to give out 3,600 house lots. 3,600 more Guyanese benefited from their lots to make themselves a home and to make them happy for themselves and family. Okay. We have been able to reduce VAT on electricity, residential and individual use. We have been able to remove data on cell phones. We have been able to remove...
So that's a pretty long list you're talking
Sorry,
about.
not data on cell phone. VAT on data, VAT on cell phones. We have been able to help with the interland, making sure that it is not expensive for them to traverse in and out of the interland. So the reduction on the airfares going into the interland.
Quite a huge list.
You know, a few days ago, we reduced the excise tax on gasoline. We are about listening, we are about working for people, and we are about making Guyana a proud, successful, progressive country that we can all live very happily and we can all we can all achieve our dreams and aspirations.
Minister Kwame McCoy, Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister, and responsible for public information, dissemination of it, and quite a number of responsibilities. It was my pleasure having you on board.
Thank you,
And I
Mark.
know for our conversation, we needed much more time, but we're out of time. Thank you so much, Minister. And we wish you all the best coming forward to the budget on Monday. And we know we will be listening to your deliberations as you represent your ministry. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been Budget in Focus. I'm Mark Watson. Thank you so much for being a part of it.